I'm Liz Schrum for the Wisconsin Technology Council, here with WisBusiness.com, the show. Just ahead, Tom Still talks about Wisconsin's needs for broadband cooperation, and Brian Schupper, who helps to direct Scale Up Milwaukee, discusses how the Greater Milwaukee Committee is committing to hands-on assistance for emerging companies. And now, here's this week's Tech Metrics. These snapshots of key indicators in the Wisconsin economy were developed by the Wisconsin Technology Council for its report, Investing in Next Generation Jobs. And now, here's Tom Still with his Inside Wisconsin commentary.
State of Wisconsin Chief Information Officer David Kajagel has a simple goal: to never spend another dollar on laying optical fiber cable for data projects involving state government and its partners. If that sounds unrealistic, consider that millions of miles of dark fiber, meaning high bandwidth fiber not in use, already exist in the United States. Even that's just an estimate, because the fiber installation glut of the early 2000s led to many network bankruptcies, so today's successor companies don't always know where all the fiber is buried. Finding and lighting dark fiber will help Wisconsin prepare for the predicted bandwidth crunch brought on by the Internet of Things and the explosion in mobile devices, Kajagel and UW-Madison Chief Information Officer Bruce Moss told a recent meeting of the Wisconsin Innovation Network. They also cautioned they can't and will not go it alone. The call for cooperation is driven by the need to ensure that Wisconsin doesn't fall behind other states and the world in terms of high-speed broadband connections, which are necessary for virtually every aspect of modern life, from business to healthcare and from education to entertainment. The Internet of Things is one force pushing Internet use. The IoT describes devices communicating with other devices in a variety of settings, such as industry and transportation. Internet capacity is also being strained by video in its many forms. Video consumes huge amounts of bandwidth, and most Internet service providers are struggling to keep up through investments in wireless networks and other backbone services. Some progress in better connecting Wisconsin is being made. Recently announced was a Gigabit Business Park mapping project that involved the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation and the Wisconsin State Telephone Association. It identified more than 130 business sites with some type of broadband connections. Kajagel said 350 Wisconsin libraries were connected to the Internet via high-speed fiber in the last year, including many in rural communities. The recently passed state budget cleared the way for better connections into thousands of Wisconsin schools, a project that Kajagel explained cannot happen without public and private cooperation. That cooperation includes learning and sharing where dark fiber exists and signing contracts with private carriers, large and small, with more competitive rates. In many Wisconsin cities, schools, libraries, and other public facilities are the only places where high-speed connections exist. By working off that backbone, carriers can help businesses in more remote settings gain the bandwidth they need too. All of Wisconsin needs better broadband connections to compete, and that need will only increase in the years to come.
We're back with Brian Schupper, Director of Policy at the Greater Milwaukee Committee, where his role includes leading efforts such as Scale Up Milwaukee. In your mind, what's the difference between a startup and a scale-up, and why does Wisconsin need more of both?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. I think in some ways a startup is, if you think of it almost as a noun, and a scale-up as a verb. So startups are, just what they say, starting up, and they're at a certain phase, a certain size. People generally kind of understand what we mean by that. Scale up is, it can run the gamut, but really it's about an action. It's companies that are growing, that, and growth really is the operative word. So we're talking about companies, and they can be at 1 year old, they can be 100 years old, it doesn't matter, so long as they want to grow and grow quickly and extensively. And the important thing is that we need both. We need all of it in Wisconsin. We're based in Milwaukee, but certainly we work with companies and will continue to work with companies more and more so throughout the state. But the fact is that really we need to build the entire ecosystem and make sure we're getting more startups, more scale-ups, more companies of every type that are going to employ a diverse group of folks.
And what kind of companies are best suited for participation in Scale Up Milwaukee?
Sure. Well, let me clarify, if I can, there's a difference between the Scale-A-Rator, which is sort of our signature program, and Scale Up Milwaukee. So Scale Up Milwaukee has two goals. One is to help companies grow, and we work directly with those companies in many cases. The second is Scale Up Milwaukee, which is to foster the environment that's going to make sure that companies can grow. And there's a lot that goes into that, working with banks, working with elected officials to make sure the policies are there, universities training the talent, the attorneys that are going to be needed to support growing companies, those kinds of things. The Scale-A-Rator is almost an intense MBA-like program that we work with companies directly, teaching them certain skills, lots of finance and sales and the like. And those companies, I think, in answer to your question, these are the companies that are going to almost be the bread and butter of what it's going to take to have a vibrant scaling up ecosystem. So the companies that we look for, and as we go for a Scale-A-Rator, we define them by three different criteria. One is they need to be beyond proof of concept. These are not startups. These are companies that have given sales, minimum $1 million. Someone besides their mom actually was willing to buy their product. The market has shown that they can do it. Second is their product or service needs to be exportable out of the region. We need to be bringing wealth into the region. The only way that we're going to do that, instead of moving the puzzle pieces around, is to make sure we're selling out of the region. And third is they need to be led by somebody who's really ambitious. Somebody who looks at something and says, not I want 3, 4, 5% growth and a nice tidy little business, but I want minimum 20% growth year after year after year, and all the accompanying wealth, job development, et cetera, that comes with that.
How do you measure the success of Scale Up Milwaukee in terms of those companies that take part?
Well, again, I think there's two different sort of measures of success that we use. One are the companies themselves, and that's in some ways is the easiest. So for the first Scale-A-Rator, and we've run 2 of them, we're about to launch our 3rd. For the first one, we actually polled them beforehand. We asked them to tell us, and this was in September 2013, what are your anticipated revenues for 2014? At the end of the Scale-A-Rator, we asked them to re-project their revenues for 2014 based only on what they learned. This was not an academic exercise. They were developing a new sales plan because of that. The average projected increase above and beyond what they had initially had was 25%. And we were really excited about that because we were able to show that we can teach ambition and we can help them realize it. I'm glad to tell you that that first class exceeded that and ended up increasing their sales on average by 36%. And that was in year 1. We're just measuring now, where year 2 will end up being, but so far the early projections are looking fantastic. I think overall, when we talk about how do we measure our own success, it's again creating that vibrant economy, vibrant ecosystem, people talking about growth, in addition to the startups and technology, but talking about growing companies and the accompanying job growth, wealth growth that's going to come with that.
Thanks, Brian, and thank you for watching this edition of WisBusiness.com, the show. The show is produced by the Wisconsin Technology Council and WisBusiness.com, and sponsored by UW-Milwaukee and Exact Sciences. Visit our websites to read and learn more. I'm Liz Schrum of Talent But Executive Search. See you next time.